Hey guys, it's Carl Brown from GuitarLessons365.com, and we got a beautiful one from Pink Floyd today. It's called "Is There Anybody Out There?" I did a video of this a long time ago, and I'm redoing that just to kind of update the quality of it. It is something that's kind of overlooked a lot in Pink Floyd discography and stuff. It's a beautiful kind of instrumental piece, kind of classical guitar-y type. Really, really nice. And the story behind it is it's not actually David that's playing the guitar part in it. It's actually a guy named Joe DeBlasi. He's a studio musician in LA, and Dave just couldn't make the fingerstyle work, he says. He says, I can play it with a leather pick, make it sound pretty good, but it didn't have that same fingerstyle quality. So they brought somebody in that was a little bit better at the fingerstyle stuff. Now, you can play this with a pick. It's fine. It sounds great. I actually prefer to play with a pick myself because I'm a lot better with a pick than I am fingerstyle. But it's either way you can make it sound very nice. And I do that now. There's actually a section in my academy where I just added it. This so you know this if you're in my academy, where I take classical guitar pieces and I arrange them for pick style playing. So we still get access to that great repertoire, some beautiful pieces of music that work on just one guitar, one dude, whatever, or woman, whatever, playing in all music, and you can access it and still just use a pick. You don't have to learn fingerstyle techniques. So if you're into that kind of thing, check out my academy. Also, there's a 40% off the annual subscription rate. Link below, and that'll give you 40% off, access to all the courses, that same price for life. As long as you keep your account active, and you get access to all my live streams every week, and personalized support from me, all my courses. So you get a free 7-day trial if you've never had an account. So check it out. All right. So anyway, I'm going to be struggling through this fingerstyle. I used to play classical guitar, used to be my main thing, and about 10 years ago, I've documented this a lot on this channel with Academy members and stuff. Kind of got a little nerve damage that affected the outside of this hand. So still use a pick fine. Fingerstyle technique, I can kind of do a very basic, but I just kind of lost all the stuff that I was doing. Because I used to do a lot of classical guitar stuff. But anyway, life goes on. So let's look at this first figure here. Actually, now the piece starts. You hear. You do hear that with the orchestra before the actual true guitar part starts, and it's just that open A string, and then that the octave of that at the second fret there on the G. So kind of keep it like that, but really the piece starts here. So it starts with this opening figure. Now, the picking pattern? Now, traditional classical guitar is going to use that ring finger on the high E string. So I'm well aware of that. I'm avoiding that. That's why these fingers work better. So you see I'm kind of adapting the pattern because these fingers absolutely suck. Anyway, so if you have a working hand, you might want to just do it kind of like that home position in classical guitar, which is just kind of really the thumb taking the D string, index finger on the G string, B string with your middle finger, and then the high E string with your ring. And then, so basically that finger gets that string each time in the pattern. So that's how you're, traditionally going to see it played. And if you're a rock guy that doesn't do a lot of fingerstyle and you want to try a fingerstyle and you don't want to use that ring, because even if you're, fully working hand, that it's usually harder to get that one going with, because there's not a lot of independence between it and the middle finger. To see the pattern that I'm doing, so I'm holding this A minor chord and I'm picking the D string with my thumb, and then the middle finger is going to do the G string. And then that allows me to just do index finger on the B, middle finger on the high E, and then the index finger back on the B string, and then that middle finger on the G again. So I'm just kind of so you might want to try that pattern too. If you're not a trained classical guitarist, that actually might feel a bit easier to you. And so it's kind of repeat that pattern. So we do that pattern on this A minor, Then we do the same pattern again, but on this F major 7. So that's just the 3rd fret there on the D string, 2nd fret on the G, 1st fret on the B, open high E still. So that was a D. Just gonna pick it across up to the high E string, back down to the D, and then hit that G string. So it's just like. And then this is kind of a little bit of a stretch here to kind of keep that open high E string from getting muted out. But you're gonna reach up that pinky and on the D string and just go to the 4th fret there on the D string. And then everything else stays the same in the chord. And then we release that pinky and back down to the previous chord. All right, and then we have this. So that is back to the A minor. Now this is just, we're gonna change up the picking pattern. We're just gonna start, just gonna pick straight up through the arpeggio. So we're gonna have this, the D string, G, B, high E string. And then you're gonna just do the same thing. You're gonna change the bass note each time. Now we're gonna have the bass note to be the open D string. The other notes stay the same. And then the 3rd fret there on the A string, you just use your pinky. So that is now gonna be, you're gonna be picking the A string with your thumb, but still picking G, B, E. And then the 2nd fret on the A. So it is. And then we go to an A minor chord. We kind of hold this a little while. So we're gonna. So that picking pattern, it's not that hard to remember. All you're doing is you're gonna be picking from the low A string all the way up to the high E, and then back down to the A. So just all the way up, all the way back down. So once you get there, and when you get back down to the open A string, you're gonna pick back up to the B string, not the high E. Just stop at the B, come back down to the A, and then that extra note that he keeps adding, the D string there. So all the way up to the high E string, and then just to the B, and that little ending like that, and then it starts over and does that exact pattern again. So it does that whole pattern twice, and then we kind of go back into that thing we've already covered. So now this part has a little bit different ending. Before we did that, this ending is this. So that's going to be. So we just finished picking the pattern on this chord. Then we're going to have take across those 3 notes again. So that's just the D, G, B. And then 2nd fret on the D string, and then the open D. And then you're gonna grab the 2nd fret there on the G, 1st fret on the B, open high E, so D. So it is. Then you're gonna pick through that chord again. So that went all the way up from the D, all the way up to the high E string, back down to the G. And you're gonna get back down to the A minor chord, which is 3, 2 on the A string, and then we're gonna go back to that picking pattern that we did before. So it did that picking pattern that we did before, one time through completely. So that's all the way up to the high E, then up to the B. That little ending, and then we're going to repeat it like we're going to do the same thing again, except you just went all the way up and then you went back down to the A, and then this time just it. That's kind of when we're getting ready to transition to the C major section. All right, so that from that second time of going through that little main theme, now we get to this next section, which is a little bit tougher because there's kind of a hammer-on pull-off thing in there that is hard to do when you're not trying to mute up. Let the high E string continue to ring out. So it looks like this. Very, very cool. So starts out with just a regular C major chord. So once again, we're going to pick across this. However you want to do the picking. I'm not even paying much attention to it. Whatever my fingers want to do. An easier way of maybe doing that is just kind of going thumb on the bass strings and then whatever. Then we have the same. Now that's where we're talking this. So what's going on here is the second fret there on the A string, open D, open G, first fret on the B. So you're going to pick across those strings first. So A across to the B string. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hammer on the third fret, then pick that high E string, then back to that third fret and pull back off the first fret on the B. So that's, you don't want to kind of run into that like that. And then we go to then we go to an A sus2 chord. So that's going to be just A sus2. So it's just regular A minor chord. Pick up that note that's on the B string. So you have an open B. And you're just going to pick from that open A all the way across to the high E string, back down to the G. And then so that it's kind of sliding down through that. So we start with this 5 on the G, this 5 on the G, 5 on the B string, and then 4 on the G, 3 on the B, and then slide that down, and then pick that 2 on the G and 1 on the B, and then here open G, open B, back to the open G. So then back to that same, kind of the same exact thing we did before, it just has a different ending. So we stopped before when we got to that, there on the A sus2, when we got back down to the G string, we did this. Right? Except instead of doing that this time, it comes up and goes. So it's kind of a jump. But that's up here at the 9th fret there on the G string. And then 8 on the high E. And then 7 on the B string. 7 on the G string. And then 7 on the high E. So. All right, and then we're getting towards the very end of the piece. Same, goes back to that same main theme. So this is played like the first time through. So you see that right there, that's the same kind of that we did we ended the first theme with when we first started the piece. That this time that you hear it at the end of the song, when it gets to that part, start slowing it down. And then we get to this very end of it, which has kind of a not an easy chord. So what that is we're going to start with this A minor. So we kind of made our way down to. So it's just a regular A minor when it gets down to it. So we pick from the open A across to the B string. And when you get to that first fret there that you're holding on the B, you're going to slide up to the 5th fret there on the B string, and then play 5, 7, 8 on the high E string. And then this big old A minor chord up here. Now, this one's a little bit hard. We have the open A string, 10th fret there on the D, 9th fret on the G, 10th fret on the B, and then this 12th fret there on the high E string. So you then kind of just, with your thumb, just kind of pick across, just strum across with your thumb, from the open A all the way to the high E. And that's it. It's a beautiful piece of music, just kind of a really laid back thing. And like I said, it sounds really good. Like I have a pick here. Sounds really good with a pick too. So sounds great with a pick. If you do opt to use a pick here, just a quick little tip here. I'm using what's kind of chordal picking. I don't know, people call it cross picking or whatever. Basically, the rule is simple, and I think it sounds smoother when you do this because you can alternate pick it, but that'll sound a little bit more aggressive. So that's alternate picking. Which is, it's a great picking exercise there, right? Cross string picking like that. But the if you do kind of this kind of chordal picking, I'm always picking in the direction of the next string I'm going to hit. So that's the rule. It's like, so whether something's going to be a downstroke or upstroke depends on what the next string is. If the next string is above the string I'm on, I'm going to pick an upstroke to get towards that string. If it's a downstroke, if it's below it, I'm going to pick down. So as long as it's kind of takes some thinking at first. So you start with like a down, down, down. So this down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, 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 up, up, up. But but eventually it just becomes second nature. You don't think about it. But the key here is like when you're doing something like that, it's easier to kind of, especially when you're doing something like this on a nylon string and you want it to sound warmer and a little bit fatter tone, I'm picking kind of upward more than instead of more across. I'm kind of picking upward, which kind of really mellows out the sound of the strings, the attack of the string. And that's easier to do when you're doing that kind of like chordal picking where you're kind of always picking the direction of the next string. So anyway, if you wanted to use a pick, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I think a lot of classical stuff sounds great with a pick. You can see my Academy and you can see that. There's some really beautiful music over there. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for guitarlessons365.com.